Welcome. We're glad that you could join us for the sixth session of our Document Accessibility Workshop Series, PDF Accessibility in Practice. This webinar is made available by the Northwest Higher Education Accessibility Technology Group. Northwest HEAT is a joint project of the Orbis Cascade Alliance and NWAC, the Northwest Academic Computing Consortium. Our mission is to advance our common goal of ensuring that digital services, systems, and resources are equitably accessible to all users. Our overarching goal is to cultivate a community of practice among faculty and staff who support digital accessibility on their campuses. To do this, we provide a series of professional development opportunities, such as this webinar, and we share best practices and resources through a collaborative knowledge base. If you'd like more information about the work of Northwest HEAT, we invite you to visit northwestheat.org. You will find recordings from all of the sessions in this series, as well as webinars we have offered over the last 5 years. You can also communicate with us through the poll that we will share at the end of this session. Before we introduce our presenter, we'd like to take a moment to share a few housekeeping details. This session includes a chat, which means you can submit questions to our presenter throughout the session. There will be a Q&A at the end of the session, but you can also use the raise hand in the React menu, or you can even unmute your mic to ask a question during the presentation. This session includes captioning. You will find instructions in our Zoom chat on how to access the captioning. And this session is being recorded. The video will be shared at northwestheat.org. Our presenter for the Document Accessibility Workshop Series is Michele Joy Bromley, Manager of Digital Accessibility and Content in the Office of Information Technology at Portland State University. And now we turn it over to Michele for the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Northwest Higher Education Accessible Technology Group. I don't have notes in front of me today because today is our final practice session. So for those of you, as Gloria shared, for those of you who weren't unable to attend the previous session, PDF Accessibility Basics, or any of the sessions before that on document accessibility, definitely check out the recordings on the website. Today we're going to just dive in to a PDF, and I'm here to answer any questions. This is a very open practice work session. Again, questions throughout. I don't have any lecture slides prepared because we're just going to walk through some examples. I have a couple of PDFs that I pulled up, but I'd also like to really open it up to y'all. If there's, as long as nobody feels put on the spot, if there's a PDF that you'd like to share, that we can dive into remediation. Does anyone have one that they brought to the session today?
Yes, I have one. My name is Sophia Jetta. Hi.
Hi.
And it also happens to be a fillable form. Is that okay?
Perfect. Excellent. Yeah, are you able to attach that to the chat?
Yeah, let me see if I can go ahead and do it. Oh, it doesn't look like I can do an attachment.
Problem. I'm also popping my email in there, so you can also just send a practice PDF to MJ Bromley, MJBROMLEY at pdx.edu.
Perfect. Thank you.
Really, you're saving us because the example that I pulled was the vehicle bill of sale from the Oregon DMV website about 10 minutes ago. So those, they are actually compliant with section 508 and have a fully fillable PDF. So I stripped it. As often some of our colleagues might do when they print something to PDF or scan something and send it to you, and it has to be sort of re-tagged.
Mhm.
Michelle, there is a question/comment in chat also from Cheryl.
Sure, yeah. So Cheryl says, I have a question about accessibility checkers. Oregon Health Authority is recommending PAC, which I downloaded and is much more specific than the Adobe one. I'm not familiar with PAC as an accessibility checker, but in terms of accessibility checkers in general, they're a very solid tool to use, but not a, similar to, we talked a little bit in previous presentations about artificial intelligence and its ramifications for designing or remediating accessible documents. And it is an augmentative tool, not a solution. And that's the same thing with accessibility checkers. Accessibility checkers are a really great place to start because they're going to help you catch the obvious things, right? Like if an image is missing alt text. But one of the things we talked about in a previous session was that it'll catch if you're missing alt text. Depending on the checker, it won't necessarily catch if the alt text is bad, right? If the alt text, for example, is, 725 vehicle.3.jpg or something, right? Because sometimes alt text will automatically be the name of the file, for example. So automated checkers are a really, really great place to start. Again, they're going to catch, they might catch some heading hierarchical errors, but they won't necessarily catch if there is a missing heading, something that should be, or possibly something that shouldn't be a heading that is. So often it kind of depends on folks' workflow, whether they'll maybe start with a checker and grab some of the obvious things and then go through their manual checklist, or whether they'll go through their manual checklist and then use that manual checker to see if it could catch anything they forgot. Sagan, it looks like your hand is raised.
Hi, this is Sadie. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. I guess kind of bouncing off of the path checker, we use it pretty heavily here because of all the checkers. It's really very in-depth. My recommendation for it is the results in detail tab does often link out to kind of their troubleshooting guide, which has been really helpful for fixing some of the errors because there's a lot where I was like, I didn't even know what this means. My question about it is, as I've been working with PDF remediation, I'm finding there's a pretty solid number of errors that can really only be fixed by going back to the original document and re-exporting as a PDF. But the problem I'm having is I don't have a good sense of what errors to look for that are going to be those kinds of like, stop, you can't fix it.
That's a fantastic question.
Thanks.
Yeah, so 100%, it's one of the reasons why when I teach about PDF accessibility, if y'all remember from the last session, for those of you who were able to attend, I started with stuff that was kind of like, why are we starting with this? It's not that like this stuff isn't that big of a deal. Well, it is a big deal, but we talked about typography and color and readability. And even though programmatically for World Wide Web Consortium web content accessibility guidelines, like we got to be thinking about tags, right? Heading structure, alternative text behind the images. We do have to think about all of that. But all of that stuff, the programmatic stuff, the tagging, the alt text behind images, that is stuff that you can fix in Adobe Acrobat Pro or Foxit PDF Editor or Equidocs or Common Look or any of those other tools. It is something you can fix in there. It is a huge pain. It takes forever. So I always recommend going back to the original if you have an option. But a lot of times you don't necessarily have an option, and going back to the original could mean exporting a PDF as a Microsoft Word document or Google Doc and then like trying to start over. So the things that tell you whether or not you need to start over And there may be other things from the audience. So if anyone else has things, please let me know. But the things for me that are the triggers for, oh crap, I can't fix this here, I need to go back to the original, is color, use of color, and typography and readability. Because if someone has done bad color contrast, right? Like the original, I don't know, you've got some rough color contrast in there somewhere. There's not a lot you can do. You can try to go into the edit PDF and change some of the background colors, but it can get very messy messing with color and typography in a PDF editor. So two of the things that indicate to me, oh, I probably should go back to the original because things are about to get real messy, is if the typography is too small, right? If the font size is too small, or if it's not a super readable font, right? It's a serif font, or like, you know, the accessibility prevent something like Papyrus or Comic Sans or something. But if the font's a problem, it's probably got to go back to the original. If use of color is a problem, so using color alone to convey meaning or color contrast is an issue, probably going to go back to the original. And if readability, like if everything is like squished together, right? There's not an effective use of empty or white space. There's not an effective use of bullet pointed lists. Or a lot of times something that can really complicate is if somebody in the original used tables as a means of laying out information instead of as a means of representing data. That's another thing that you can fix in the PDF editor, but oh my gosh, it is very, very, very difficult. And is really only made easier if you've got a lot of HTML experience. So yeah, I would say readability, color, typography, those are the things that I'm like, oh, that's going to be so difficult to fix in a PDF editor without completely destroying the document that I'm probably going to need to go back to the original. But if typography, color, and layout are all pretty good, then the rest of it is going to be a lot of programmatic stuff that I'm going to want to fix on the back end. Daniel. Oh, Daniel, I think you're muted.
I am. Thank you. That was an amazing answer. I think the only other thing I would consider is document length. So like say if you kind of working with a poorly tagged document, like none of the headings are tagged, and you're looking at like a 50+ page document. If you have access to the original, it's probably worth to go back and do the tagging in that original Word doc, for example, and then generate it. Because the amount of, tagging you have to do in Acrobat, it's just a really slow process for me.
Yeah.
And so the more pages you
For
gotta
anyone.
slog through, yeah.
Yeah.
But then with auto tagging, that might fix that. It just depends,
Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why in the support materials that I make available for Portland State University staff, one of the first to-do items in the remediate inaccessible PDFs article is, what did I call it? Not a needs assessment, like an effort. I think I called it an efforts assessment. Because you open up a document, and I mean, I did it just now without even thinking about it because I do PDFs so often. When I opened up the PDF that Sophia had sent to me, I immediately scrolled to see how many pages it was. And to kind of get a layout of like, all right, what do we got going on here? Are there like a lot of images, or are there a lot of, and my first thought was, all right, this is mostly text, couple of tables in there that might have been used inappropriately, but small enough that it's easy to remediate in tags. And so absolutely, Daniel, that's a brilliant point. It's the style stuff, right? Like, oh, I can't fix that in a PDF editor without like really, really destroying the PDF. So I need to go back to the original. Or length, because you're sort of weighing, when I look at a document, I do a scroll through and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is going to be the worst. I'm going to need some coffee, but okay. Um, or, yep, nope, we're gonna start over. So that is an absolutely great point, that the longer the document is, the more, even though it might be easy stuff to do in the PDF, easy being a relative descriptor, for reading order and tags, if it's a huge amount, then yeah, using an accessible content editor to generate an accessible version that will then populate the PDF with tags is going to be the better option. It's a great point. Sagan, did that answer your question? Let me make sure I've got the chat open too. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Cheryl says, I'm a communicator, not a techie. What is the styles interface? I wouldn't say it's an interface. Well, there is definitely a styles menu in, say, Microsoft Office, for example, and that's where you're going to find your headings. But when I say style, when I think about accessible design, I think about it in the context of two separate areas. There's the style stuff and the structure stuff. And the structure stuff has been historically the primary focus of the web content accessibility guidelines, that we're thinking about the underlying structure of a given digital asset and how it interacts with adaptive technology like screen reading software, text-to-speech software, or speech recognition software. The style stuff that historically hasn't been considered as much in WCAG or other formal industry guidelines. That is stuff that has a fairly significant impact on people with vision disabilities, cognitive or learning disabilities, color blindness. So things like your use of color, right? Using color alone to convey meaning, or color contrast. That's kind of what I mean by style. So it's not so much an interface as sort of a category of things to think about in accessible design. So yeah, color, typography, readability. And actually, I've been really impressed with the work that the World Wide Web Consortium has been doing over the past couple of years to start thinking more about that. To be taking a really hard look at web content accessibility guidelines and be thinking, those things that maybe historically we classified as more like stylistic elements and not necessarily a structural concern are actually have a pretty significant impact on people with disabilities.
Yeah, actually, it's my fault for saying styles interface. That's like a word specifically. I guess the styles gallery
gotcha.
in the chat. So that's how
Oh,
that.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
There was an
Sorry about that.
earlier question from Cheryl asking if there's if there's a hot list of what to do when setting up a new document. And so that I think that's what it was related to. So whether it's styles, headings, just getting it set up. And so we do have our previous webinars, and once I stop talking, I'll go grab the list, but we do have previous webinars. If you didn't attend those, there's a Michele goes quite in detail about some of the high level, like if you're working in an original document or a presentation, here are some of those key elements that you can work on, which then lends towards the success if you are going to convert those to PDFs.
I think these are the ones. So these are the ones from the very first presentation when you're using a word processing tool like Microsoft Word or Google Docs. So style, typography, color readability, structure, properties, headings, links, alt text, lists, tables, and form fields. And I do want to also put like an asterisk there. There are a ton of really fantastic checklists out there that folks have created for manual checks. I mean, honestly, Microsoft Office has a pretty solid checklist for going through their various tools and manually checking for accessibility. Adobe slightly less so, but they've got some stuff as well. Google has a pretty good list. But definitely this this list, thinking about like the style stuff and the structure stuff, I've found is one of the best ways to set folks up to meet as many WCAG guidelines as possible when they're either producing something in an accessible content authoring tool and sharing it in that capacity, or then publishing it as a PDF and validating it there. Sharing screen. I keep starting to share my screen and then completely forgetting what I'm doing. Okay. All right. Can I get some hollers or nodded heads if y'all are seeing? Okay, I'm seeing some nodded heads, some thumbs up. Thank you so much. All right. So what I am displaying on screen is a document shared with us by Sophia. It is, and Sophia, I'm sorry, is it Sophia or Sophia? I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it correctly.
It's Sophia.
Sophia, I am so sorry. I apologize.
That's okay.
All right, so Sophia shared a document, data sharing agreement between Everett Community College and fill in the blank. So one of the first things we're going to do, right, is we get this PDF from someone, right? They just drop it in and they say, hey, this needs to be accessible. And so one of the first things we do, right, is maybe scroll through and double check, okay, this is mostly text. I'm seeing some pretty clear visual heading structure, a nice sans serif font, no ineffective use of color, no images. I'm thinking this is going to be one that we can take care of the programmatic structural accessibility. There are some things, if I were working on this for someone, if I were converting this for a group, I often it's sort of a reactive thing, right? Like this needs to be accessible right now. So I would likely work on a conversion and then engage with the original authors and say, hey, like going forward in the future, please be thinking about using, and we'll have to check if it uses table structure or not. But if, for example, if these two columns over here, under agency providing data, there's a couple of contact columns. If tables were used for that instead of columns, that's something we can fix here. But I would say, hey, in the future, please, please use built-in column structure rather than table structure. Tables should be used for data only. I also might recommend there's an indentation after we say under agency providing data, there's agency name, Everett Community College, agreement contact information, and the text is kind of smashed together. So I might make some suggestions for readability for the future to put a little bit of more space in there. Maybe think about putting in some heading 3s to indicate the agreement contact information for the agency, for the entity. And just like you want unique descriptive link names, you also want unique headings. And so if in a more inclusive iteration of this document in the future, agreement contact information were to turn into a heading 3, you'd want to make it agency agreement contact information, entity, agreement contact information to differentiate with those headings. And I might also suggest bullet points, because there's a little bit of an indentation into like separating the context information and fillable fields from the heralding language beforehand, but it's a little smashed together. So there's a couple of readability things that I might note about this document in terms of making it more accessible and inclusive and usable going forward. But in terms of WCAG accessibility, I'm not seeing anything here that would really require me to go back to the original. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm trying to grab some text with my cursor and I'm unable to. There might be some that I can grab. I do see that there's fillable fields, but I'm unable to engage with the surrounding text. And so that's going to mean that someone using screen reading software might be able to fill in the form if the tooltips are amazing for these form fields, but it would not be an equitable or accessible experience because they wouldn't have access to the surrounding text. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my tools and I'm using the Adobe Optical Character Recognition right now. As we've discussed in previous sessions, the optical character, not all optical character recognition tools are not created equally. And the Adobe one is sometimes good, depending on the quality of the PDF. But most of the time, if you're doing a lot of conversion, if you're dealing with a lot of, we got to convert this thing after the fact, you're probably going to want a slightly better optical character recognition tool. I think it was Sagan who brought up last time Abby Fine Reader, which is just a fantastic optical character recognition tool. It's sort of like learning to drive stick shift because it's a little more intense and involved than your average PDF editor or optical character recognition tool, but it is so worth it. Makes you feel like you're driving faster. In that analogy, OmniPage is another solid optical character recognition tool, but you know what? We are going to try our hand at Adobe Acrobat Pro because that is what I have on this computer. And it's going to try real hard. Get it, Adobe Pro. Let's see how you did. Oh no. Oh, hey, not bad. Alrighty. Okay. So, it's always, I'm seeing Alice's emoji laugh. It's always kind of a like, see how you're gonna do, Adobe. All right. So, let's think about our checklist. For those of you who are at the last training, PDF. First, let's make sure the text is recognizable. Cool. We did that. Now let's go to properties. Let's just make sure we've got a nice title. Whoa. My keyboard is having a lot of fun today. Data sharing agreement. Everett Community College. Well, actually, let's just make Everett Community College the author. Wow. My keyboard is just having all sorts of fun today. I'm normally not a really big mouse user, but today I'm getting a little bit of mouse practice. Reading options, language, English. Great. Okay, so descriptive document title, language set. Obviously, as we go through the document, if we find that there's a second language, then we're going to need to do some assessment there. So next on the list, we go properties and then reading order. Best place to go for reading order, under prepare for accessibility, I'm going to go fix reading order. And let's see what we got going on here. Interesting. We've got some interesting stuff going on here. I am going to delete this heading 2 at the top. And I'm going to retag it. Oh my goodness. My mouse is being very grumpy today too. I was just telling the Northwest Higher Education Accessible Technology folks before the start of the session that my mouse and my Bluetooth mouse and keyboard were having trouble connecting to the computer before. So that might be the problem. I'm going to stop sharing and restart not my computer, but my mouse and Adobe Acrobat Pro. Oh yes, please save changes to the data sharing. Yes, please. Funny, when I was training my student team on PDF remediation a couple of years ago. Well, I still had a student team. I miss having a student team. It's fun working with student employees. But one of the things I told them, I said the biggest tip for remediating PDFs in Adobe Acrobat Pro or whatever other tool is that sometimes you just have to shut everything down and restart because it's not being nice. And the truth is, that's true for Abby too. I don't know why, but PDF editors, for some reason, sometimes you just gotta just start over. Prepare for accessibility, fix reading order. Let's make sure everything is working. Sophia.
Can I ask a general question while we're waiting?
Yeah, absolutely.
How does a screen reader pick up one of those fillable fields? Will it say, like, does it say something to indicate to the user that they would need to put in some information there?
Yeah, it will recognize a form field and it will read the descriptive tooltip, which is one of the reasons why it's so important to have both a field name and a tooltip for your form fields. So my my fixed reading order tool appears to be working now. Huzzah! All right, so I opened up a fixed reading order under prepare for accessibility. And previously, data sharing agreement, the title of the document, and its subtext between Everett Community College and fill in the blank, were all a heading 2, which is wrong for a couple of reasons. You want to have your overarching heading 1, your single heading 1 that sort of triggers the rest of the document. And that subtext shouldn't be a part of it. So we're going to change data sharing agreement to heading 1. Beautiful. It is retagged. And then we're going to grab that subtext and just tag it as text/paragraph. Lovely. I am going to, in my reading order, in my reading order dialog box, there's a couple of different options here. And right now at the bottom under show page content groups, it has the radio button structure types selected. That can be very helpful in terms of retagging as you go. Before I'm done looking at reading order, I'm going to switch to page content order because that's going to help me make sure that the reading order of the page is accessible. Because there's going to be some form fields going on in here, I'm also going to retag a little bit of the text here so that I can allow for the form fields to appear in the place in the reading order that they're meant to appear. So what I mean by that is that we've got this first sentence, this data sharing agreement, DSA, is entered into by and between Everett Community College, comma, I'm fairly sure that says herein or therein, but it's blocked by a tag. So something or in after referred to as EVCC, comma, and then we've got a blank. So I'm actually, oh, it's herein. I'm going to go ahead and delete that tag. I'm actually going to delete a couple of tags that are already in there. And the reason why, again, is because I'm going to need to make these form fields fillable. And I want the reading order to be, here's a block of text, and then here's the form field, and here's the block of text, rather than the form fields coming after or in various places. So I'm actually going to go through, I'm holding down my control key on my keyboard. And I'm just gonna do this. What I'm doing is I'm just grabbing all of the ones that I'm very likely going to replace, and I'm deleting them. And if any of you are thinking, aha, oh, I see a little clue here. It is as I predicted. Under entity receiving data, for those of you who can see the screen, entities receiving data is tagged as a TH. Can anyone tell me what that means? It means that when this document was designed, that these columns were created not as columns, but as a table. So it means they were originally tagged as, and good for them to some degree, because there is a table header, but it's not an actual table displaying data. So it's not good. So actually we're going to delete all those tags. And if any of you are thinking, gee, This is wild. Is this what we're going to be doing on every page? It is. And so if this feels wild to you and you think, oh my gosh, it's worth finding the original document and designing it accessibly from the get-go, yes, right on, huzzah, agreed. I hate remediating PDFs. Said as a digital accessibility specialist of 15 years, it's the worst. But it is, you know, a thing that must be done. So I'm going to delete all of these things that were tagged incorrectly. I'm going to delete the things that I need to retag to allow for. Okay. Beautiful. All right, and I can just delete them. So I used my control key to select multiple ones at a time, makes it a little bit faster. And then I used the delete button on my keyboard, but I could also right click and say delete selected item structure from the drop down menu. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Still got to have my reading order panel open. Zoomed in a little bit too far. There we go. And I'm going to select the text. I'm now getting to work. Text/paragraph, and then more text/paragraph. Making sure to grab those commas. Punctuation is important. Oops, and it didn't grab the comma. Maybe if we think of it like a little, like an old school computer game from the 90s, that's kind of fun. I'm retagging it, and it's like a little computer game, and it's great. This tag is incorrect. Because it's, so agency providing data should be a heading 2 and it's tagged as a heading 3. I can erase it and rebox it as a heading 2, but actually since it's read correctly, it was recognized as agency providing data. I'm just going to worry about fixing that when I get to the tags. I'm not worried about it now. And I'm going to get my name and my title. I also apologize for those of you who, for anyone who is new in any way, in any capacity to PDF editing. And if you came to this session thinking, this is going to be an engaging instructional session on remediating PDFs. Not that I don't think I'm at least attempting to be engaging right now, but this is a little bit like watching water boil. Because, you know, it's remediating a PDF. It's not super interesting stuff. All right, I'm going to tag this as a heading 2. Come on, Grumpy. Let's go. Let's see if you'll tag as text. You won't. We'll have to come back to you later. And by come back to you later, I mean, I'm probably going to do that thing where I restart Adobe because it's being grumpy. Huzzah! For purposes of time, we're going to just focus on the, oh, come on, Grumpy. I'm not talking to any of you when I say Grumpy. I'm talking to the computer. For purposes of time, we're just going to focus on the first page. Also, if you're wondering, yes, when I remediate PDFs on my own, I do this much talking to myself as the amount of talking that I'm doing to all of you. There's just a lot more swearing. For example, there would definitely be swearing now as I try to grab the text with my
What is
cursor.
it doing? Come on.
Oh, it's just not grabbing it.
Yeah.
It's just like, nah, I don't think so. Like it's there, but we're not going to tag it for you. I just sometimes PDF editors just wake up grumpy, you know? Let's see, span definitions. Where are we? Definitions. You are tagged very weirdly, my friend. Where are you? There you are. Ah, Okay. There is a number there. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. If y'all saw a little timepiece appear on my cursor, it's because I pressed Control S to save what we're doing. And then I'm gonna restart Adobe again. For those of you who do this a lot, I hope this is validating for you, because that's what this is just how it is.
Yes, very much.
Let's see. Oh, I want to make sure that I'm not missing any. Let's see. We've got, yeah, someone says, I hate that start all over part. Have to put them in timeout for a minute. Yes, these PDF editors. Oh, and someone in the chat did answer the question. Table header. Yes, we saw a tag that instead of saying H2 for heading level 2 or a P for regular old paragraph text, it said TH to indicate a table header, which indicates that that section was originally designed erroneously as a table. Someone said they also watch Water Boil too. I do as well. I'm very impatient. Okay. Alice, that's correct. Alice says you're just confirming the fact that it's best to remediate the source file first before converting it to PDF. Yes, yes, I am. That is the goal. That is the not secret goal of this entire session. All right, let me go back to sharing my screen. And we're back. Prepare for accessibility. Fix reading order. All right. Come on, Adobe Acrobat Pro. I just dragged my cursor over entity receiving data, which is intended to be a heading 2. Nope. Just not gonna do it. So that would be another situation where if it just won't recognize the text, it's possible you'll have to go back to the original. But we're gonna continue with at least what we've got for now, because I do want to show y'all the tagging steps and the form steps. Oh, this is so funny. So for purposes of this presentation, I'm going to continue, but I also want to be super clear that at this point in the remediation process, I would be exporting this thing into probably Microsoft Word. I think would be the easiest place. And then when I got to Microsoft Word, I would press Control A to select all my stuff, and I would press Control Q to strip all of the underlying formatting from it. And then I would reformat it from the start. Because already the document, and to be clear, this has nothing to do with Sophia. This is actually a very great example. This document is already annoying me, and so I would have switched. Okay. Definitions. Come on, hear me out. Yes, heading 2. Go Adobe Acrobat Pro.
Yes, it's hard to put to words, but this is exactly the kind of technical unknown where like you're trying to do it and it's just not happening.
Yeah.
And so basically something invisible or hard to get at has gone wrong with the data in the file. And it's like how you're really not sure you're gonna be able to get at it and make it right.
Yeah.
Without
I
starting.
am gonna open. Tell me what's going on with you, entity receiving data, and why you don't like me. What is going on in your psyche? I'm sorry, Little Mermaid soundtrack is, I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and it's just in my psyche, and this is how I process when I'm working on something. Mostly y'all are just like lucky that I'm not singing all of my monologue right now. Reminding myself that this is going to be recorded and on the Northwest Higher Education Accessibility Technology website for eternity. All right, let's try it now. Nope. Yeah, so I would definitely switch to the original, but again, for purposes of this, we're going to go. All right, so on our checklist, we got properties, we got reading order. Let's pretend that we were in fact able to fix the reading order for this whole page. And then of course, if there were any images, that pro tip that I gave y'all last time, it is so much easier to validate the alt text right at the end of your reading order step, because with your reading order panel open, your reading order dialog box, I can right click on an image and I'm going to have edit alternate text right there. So I can go through the document and put in mine. There's a couple different ways to edit alternative text in a PDF. And if you use your PDF accessibility checker, excuse me, if you use your PDF accessibility checker, then that's one way to do it. But I've found that the easiest way is just right after you do reading order, or even as you're doing reading order, as you go through the page, you're checking alternative text. I'm going to switch real quick to page content reading order just to make sure. Let's see, I'm looking at my document. So I selected the radio button page content order instead of structure types just to see what's going on. And indeed, there's some exciting reading order stuff going on here. Things are just a wee bit out of order. So I'm going to grab some of the tags and literally drag them, whoopsie daisy, up here to the right place. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. An invisible 19. 2021. Oh, got some more fun stuff going on here. We've got phone number in the wrong place, so I'm going to fix that. We've got a blank that shouldn't be there, so get rid of that. If it lets me. Okay, great. Okay, so reading order for this page, check, sort of. And now I'm going to go to my tags. Okay. All right. Now it's separated things into parts, which drives me bananas, but does not actually have major accessibility ramifications. I don't like things being in parts. So I usually clean that up a little bit with, so I'm in my tags panel right now, and I'm kind of messing with the random tagging they've got going on here. So I've got my H1, good. I've got my regular text. I've got an H3, which should be an H2. So I'm literally just gonna change it right in here. I clicked on the tag and I was able to just switch it manually to an H2. So that's what I meant by if something is recognized and grabbed correctly and shows up in the right place in the reading order, I could redo it, but because reading order can be so finicky in Adobe Acrobat Pro, I'm usually going to default to fixing it in, oh, interesting. So for those of you who are able to see the screen, you may be noticing that in tags, it's recognizing some things that did not get recognized in the reading order, which is fine. I have another H3 that should be an H2. And I have an H2 that should be an H2. I would say good job, Adobe, but we manually corrected that together. All right, going back to my first page. Okay, so I went through, I cleaned up the tags. Then I'm going to make sure that tags are in the right order. Ooh, someone asked, what do you mean by parts and why do you not like them? So in the document, depending on how it was designed originally, it'll pull some underlying HTML essentially, or pseudo HTML with it, into PDF. So when you open up the accessibility tags, oh, exactly, Kimberly, that's a great point. Sometimes you see left caret part, right caret around random sections of the page. Doesn't really mean anything. Or you see left caret sect end caret, or left caret div right caret. It's fine. It doesn't actually impact accessibility dramatically, but it can make it a little bit difficult. I am deeply neurodivergent. If y'all couldn't tell, with the talking to myself and the singing during a presentation. And it is very difficult for me to, like, I think of a page as a page. And so when there's arbitrary sections, that confuses me in terms of being able to organize the tags. And so visually, I'll pull everything out of the arbitrary HTML sections that were created. It's usually not going to be a problem when you've designed a document accessibly. But depending on where it was designed, you may have sections or a sect, document, part, div, a couple different things. So that's all I mean by parts. It's just a preference thing for my ability to tag stuff. So we fix our reading order. We fix our tags, check our tag reading order for the things that are taggable. And now if this were not a form document, we'd be set to go. Well, not literally, because we would have to go back to the original on this document, but had we been able to get the rest of the reading order stuff, then we would be done, but we are not done because this is a form. And so now we're going to go to our tools and we are going to prepare the form. Okay. So, first thing is preparing the form fields. Then we worry about form field order. So there's a missing form field at the top. So we're going to manually add a form field in here. Okay. And we're going to right click and go to properties, and we're going to say organization name or partner organization name. Can anyone tell me what else I would edit about this form field before I move on?
Tooltip, right?
Tooltip. Yes. Tooltip. Because the tooltip is what's going to be read by the screen reading software, speech recognition software, text to speech software. The name is what you visually see. So that's still really very important. So that folks can, because otherwise, screen reader users, text to speech users would be the only folks who would know what they're actually supposed to put in the field. So you want to have the visual and the, oh, Kimberly brings up a good point. In a massive document, sections and pages can help you to quickly organize and visually jump to certain parts of the document in the tag tree. That's absolutely true. Like I said, it's a preference thing. It's not gonna, those breaking down the tags into sections isn't going to impact the readability via adaptive technology in a negative or positive way. All right, so partner organization name, great, lovely. What's awesome about fillable forms is that, no, I do not want to put a new field in. Stop. Okay, it's being grumpy, but that's okay. Is I am going to rename this field. Actually, I'm going to go to properties because renaming it wouldn't be enough. And I'm actually going to put in the same thing because it's the same field, partner organization name, because it's going to have the same field name and the same tooltip as the previous one. When someone fills in this field, it'll automatically fill in the following field, which is why you don't want this next one, which is, I assume, meant to be an abbreviation. So I'm going to say abbreviated partner organization name. Oof, we are running up on the hour here. Wow, it just created a new field instead of, I just went forward with that, didn't I? Let's see. Abbreviated partner organization name. Close. All right, so I'm gonna go in, I'm going to, we're running out of time, so it would just be me doing the same thing, watch and water boil. I'm gonna go into properties and I'm going to fix the descriptive name and the tooltip. You can't, remember if you have the same, name and tooltip as another field, it's going to duplicate, which is gonna be really problematic for folks if that's not the intention. And so, for example, this field right here, this one would not be name, because it would be agency name, right? And then the next one would be entity name. And then agreement contact information, you would have entity contact name, entity contact title versus agency contact name, agency contact title, because you've got to have those unique descriptive names and tooltips. Once you've cleaned up all the names and tooltips, then just like you've got to think about reading order and tag order, you've got to think about your form field order. So you've got to make sure that your form fields appear in the appropriate order already. I'm seeing that they don't here, even if they were named correctly. Because the next one that's supposed to happen is this one. And let's see, we've got name, title, phone. So I need to fix my form order, my form field order all the way through. And then once I was done with my form field order, then I would save the whole document, probably close Adobe Acrobat Pro and reopen. To make sure that the form fields are now going to show up in the reading order. And I would go into my reading order, and I already fixed my reading order for the surrounding text around the form fields, but now I need to make sure that my form fields are showing up correctly in the midst of my surrounding text. Okay. That was a tragic but deeply realistic practice session for a PDF. We've got just a couple minutes left. Did anybody have any questions or lamentations possibly?